but as familiar as it becomes, it just, for whatever reason, always feels like the first time. Always feels like this is our first record. This is the first song I've ever written. This is I don't know what, I guess that's why, maybe a part of the reason why I keep doing it. I never thought about it this way, but it never seems to get old and tired. It always kind of seems, because every time you put a record out or every time you do a tour, things have changed and there are new challenges in front of you, and it's just it never gets comfortable, that's for sure.
Well, that's good, man. I mean, it's got to be exciting, when, like you said, every time you put out something, a new record, a new album, it is like you're starting over brand new, and it's got to be like a breath of fresh air that's still happening after all these years later.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways it definitely keeps it exciting and interesting, but in some ways it can be a level of frustration too, because it feels like you're always having to, like you can never just relax. I mean, maybe there are some bands or, that can kind of put their feet up and go like, oh, we got this, it's all good, but I feel like every time we do it, we have to prove ourselves again and, convince this, the radio station that played you the last time to play it again, the new one. And, it's always a challenge. And, like I said, it never seems to become a comfortable experience, but that's okay, because if it was, then, again, it could just get boring at that point.
Right, absolutely. Now, like you said, you guys are going to be kicking off the tour October 20th up in Portland. It's a few days before the album release. You're going to let those fans get a chance to get their hands on a hard copy of that album on these earlier shows?
I mean, unfortunately, we can't until the 27th, or actually, midnight the 26th. So we'll be playing in LA on the 26th. So, once the midnight hits, we can start selling the record, which will be cool. And then, the next day we're doing some cool stuff where there's this LA Comic-Con, which is going on all weekend. The same coincided with the week of our release. It's sort of like, San Diego Comic-Con, but a bit smaller. And we're going to have a Powerman booth there, and we're going to be having, have the records available there. And, of course, everybody can pre-order them now, so they can get it instantly, whenever the clock strikes 12 on the 27th. So, but yeah, I'd love to sneak a few out early, but I'd probably get in some trouble for doing that.
And like say, hey, that Comic-Con, it may be a little smaller than San Diego's, but I mean, it's like orchestrated by Stan Lee, so that's kind of got to make it a little bit cooler.
Yeah, I think it's actually. I went to it the first year they did it, and it was kind of a small thing, and every year apparently it's grown and grown. I haven't been since that first year, but I think San Diego draws about 250,000, which is insane. But
it's huge, yeah.
From what I hear, this LA one does 50,000-60,000, which is a huge amount of people still. So it'll be fun, because I grew up in that culture, and that so it's kind of fun to be able to celebrate the release of the record in a pretty non-traditional way,
Right. Is this going to be your first time actually not attending but being a part of a Comic-Con, or?
Well, I did. Years ago, I was involved a lot with the San Diego Comic-Con, because I used to do, when I wasn't on tour and making records, I had this side thing I used to do with this horror movie website called FearNet, which is no longer around, but so they would send me out to Comic-Con, and I'd get to do whatever I wanted and film stuff and interview people and just kind of basically have fun. And I got to meet so many cool, I remember I met Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, and all, over the years doing it. And then I also, a few years back, had a TV show on MTV called Death Valley, which was a scripted comedy, like a cops and monsters kind of show that I created. So when that came out, we got to do an actual panel at Comic-Con and get on the other side of it and not just on the fan side. So I've had sort of a long history with Comic-Con, so it's kind of cool to be able to do this, for the record.
Right, you get to kind of intertwine, two things that you thoroughly enjoy. So yeah, that is definitely way cool. And speaking of, getting to meet Mark Hamill, have you watched the new Star Wars trailer yet?
Oh no! When did it just come out?
Yeah, it came out on Monday Night Football. They debuted it Monday night on Monday Night Football, and it's quite the trailer. If you want to kind of get, I know a lot of my friends refuse to watch any of the new trailers. They want to go into it fresh, but it's they're doing a really good job of twisting your mind with this one.
No, I haven't seen it. I'm sure it's online somewhere.
Oh, it's everywhere. Just Google Star Wars, man. You'll be flooded.
Can't believe how I missed that one. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty wicked, man. It's pretty wicked. Speaking of pretty wicked, man, the new single off the album, Sid Vicious, An Address. Quite the title, quite the song, man. Where did that come from? How did that come about?
Yeah, it's funny. We made the record. We had the record done. You always get to this point making an album. You go, okay, this is done now. We can put this out. I feel good about it. Let's write one more song, just for fun. And that's what this song was. And I was sort of like, by the time you make a whole album, and you end up with 10 or 11 songs, but you've probably exhausted 40 or 50 ideas. So by the time you get to that point, you're a little bit burnt. And I'm like, what else do I have? What other ideas do I have? And I went back to my notes in my phone, and I had this song title, Sid Vicious, An Address, written down. And I always thought, like, maybe if I ever write a song for somebody else, like that'll be a good one to use. Or, I thought it's not a Powerman song, but it just kept coming back and kept coming back. And I'm like, well, fuck it. That's a Powerman song now then, And so we tracked and wrote that song in like an afternoon, and it was like the, no pressure kind of thing. And it ended up being the first single, which is pretty crazy. But, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of it. I mean, sonically, it's a pretty straight ahead Powerman song, but like lyrically, and it's a little different. It's a little tongue in cheek and a little bit maybe simpler of a concept that, I tend to sometimes be my own worst enemy lyrically and write these things that people are like, what the fuck does that mean? But,
a little playful, man. It's playful.
Yeah, this one, there's no really mistaking what it's about,
Right. No, absolutely not, man.
Although I must say there is confusion. This I never thought in a million years this would be confusing, but like, welcome to the internet. I mean, in my mind, I thought everybody knows who Sid Vicious is, right? He was the bass player for the Sex Pistols.
Absolutely.
And well, apparently there was a WWE wrestler named Sid Vicious that.
Yes, there was.
Yeah, like completely. Like, why would they want to put the wrestler in a? I don't get it. And people are just all confused. I'm like, oh my god, fuck. Just when you think, things couldn't be any more confusing. But I was like, okay.
Hey, you know what they say, man? All press, no matter what, is good press, right? Let them be confused.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're talking about it, it doesn't really matter.
You probably helped introduce a few more fans, man, that may not have understood. So whatever, fuck it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, man, you've been doing this for so long. I have probably personally seen you. I can't even count probably how many times I've seen Powerman 5000. One thing that always just blows my mind is your energy on stage, man. How do you do it? And, like, are your calves, like, as big as most people's heads? Because you are jumping nonstop. I mean, you're just all over the place, man. How do you do it? I can't. I couldn't do it. Never.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, and I'm like not even like a fitness junkie or, it's not like I'm at home doing like, aerobics classes 20, but there's something about the live thing that's like, it became this crazy monster of a frenetic, like, active show. Like, and clearly the music is sort of designed for that, right? It's like that 4 on the floor, up tempo. Everything's just, we're always putting these set lists together and every year it gets like more, up tempo and more crazy, and I can't now I'm, like you said, that's just kind of what I've become known for. I'm like, I can't stop doing it now, right? So you got to keep pushing harder and harder, and by this point you'd think we'd be on stools with acoustic guitars, like, let's mellow it out, guys. But no, like, every record we make, it's like more up tempo, more ridiculous, So it's just, I don't know what it is and why, how I find the energy to do it, because I see bands that are like, just starting out, and they just seem like they got no energy, and I just always liked an exciting live show, and I always like to see a band that looks like they're actually trying, and so it's just become that thing, and I guess it will always be that thing until I just can't do it anymore. But every year I feel like, fuck, man, like, I don't know, will we be able to pull it off? And it just keeps, like I said, just keeps getting more and more intense. So
yeah, and I mean, it's not just you, man. It's everybody in the band, everybody around you. They've all got the same. I don't know if they're feeding off of you or just, just pots of energy themselves, man. But yeah, every time I've seen you guys, everybody is just balls to the wall, just flying off at every angle, just giving every night. It's insane, man. It's truly insane.
Yeah, I always just thought, I don't know what it is. I have this weird thing. I always feel like you kind of have to, like, suffer for your art or it's not worth it, you know what I mean? It's like I always feel like rock and roll shouldn't be comfortable, you know? And whenever I get my, you know, some of my band complaining about, like, oh, man, I don't want to, I'm like, the fucking Ramones wore leather jackets on stage every night. Like, I don't want to hear any complaints, you know? Like, I just think there's got to be, like, a level of uncomfortableness to it, you know, if I was up there with, like, air conditioning and, like, shorts and a T-shirt and just not, I don't know, I just feel like it wouldn't be the same, you know, I mean, because I look at the crowd and you got, you know, everyone's crammed in and getting beat up and, you know, I feel like they're suffering, well, we should suffer too, so.
Well, you know, as fans, we appreciate that, man. We're glad you feel our pain and you want to bleed with us, man. That's great.
Yeah, we're all in it together.
Hell yeah. I see you're taking your friends in Knee-High Fox back out with you guys. Saw you guys in Dallas with Trees when you guys were touring with Death Valley High and Orgy and Knee-High Fox.
Oh, cool.
So, I mean, what was the decision like to take them back out with you? Just you guys have that great relationship, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, Christine, who sings for Knee-High Fox, who was also in the Sid Vicious video, is my girlfriend, and we live together, and so, you know, how can I say no? And she's like, oh, you're going on tour. Well, what about me? Let's go, you know. But the reality is they're an awesome band, and, like, it works really well together, you know, and, you know, and it's so much fun to go on the road with her because we, you know, that way we don't have to, like, you know, be on the phone every day going, I miss you, you know. So it's like we get to hang out every day, and, you know, it's just, and I like what they bring to the show because they're not, like, out there trying to compete with us. They're not like a heavy, you know, they do their thing and it occupies the whole of their space, but it works, you know, and, you know, on the tour. So, you know, they're just easy to get along with, and, you know, the last thing you want to do is have a band out on the road that you don't get along with. So this is always very easy.
No, that would absolutely suck, man. It would definitely suck. I'm sure in your years of doing this, you've probably toured with some people that you have just been just thankful when the tour ended.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. It doesn't happen very often. I mean, in fact, I mean, and I won't say who it is because. No,
please, yeah, no, save that, man. Yeah.
But there, you know, of all the years I've toured in how many hundreds of bands that, you know, you've played with, whether opening for or they're opening for you or they're local bands or whatever it is, there's really only been one band that I just could not stand, and I thought the people in the band were like the worst human beings alive. But so that's not a bad track record for all the years. I can only think of one. That's
pretty freaking good. Yeah.
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 I find that most people are happy to be there. You know, I mean, most people are like appreciative to be there, and we're all going for the same thing. And honestly, like the bigger the band, they tend to be nicer, and like because I think they get it, you know, and they have no reason to be assholes to you, and you know, and so, you know, we've had experiences where we thought it was going to be a nightmare, and we were sort of prepared, and it was the exact opposite. I remember, like, one of the biggest tours we ever did, and it was one of the first tours we ever did. Somehow we managed to open for Kiss when we were, like, just, like, still basically a local band. We had just gotten signed, and we went out 2 weeks with Kiss, and we were kept being told, like, oh, it's going to be awful, it's this and that. And they were, like, the nicest, like, most accommodating band. You know, they were super cool, and, like, you know, we got all these warnings, like, well, if you're sound checking and one of the guys from Kiss walk in, you get the fuck off the stage. And this. So one day I remember we were sound checking, and so we see, oh, here comes Paul Stanley. We're like, all right, fuck it, let's get out of here, guys. And we start packing up, and he's like, hey, man. He's like, don't worry about it. You know, and that Paul Stanley voice, like,
right.
You know, he's just like, hey, what you do your thing, man. You know, so sometimes reputations aren't always what, you know, line up with.
I hear you, man. I hear you. I got the chance to interview Dave Mustaine. Live in-person interview, and you always hear the stories about how he's a dick. Probably one of the nicest gentlemen I ever sat down with, man. It was crazy, you know. So you're right, man. Everybody's cool, man, and it's great. You, like said, you know, we've talked about how long you've been doing this. You've kind of seen both sides of the music industry. You were around back in the, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s when, you know, the labels were thriving. You know, it was the money days is what a lot of artists have labeled it as to me when I've talked to them, to as more of a DIY era in today's times. What's the biggest difference to that, man? What do you see in those two times, and which one do you prefer?
Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, it is really different, and I do find myself talking about this a lot because, yeah, I have, I spent equal amount of time on, whatever the line was here, right? Like 2004 or whatever, when things started to change. I've spent equal amount of time on both sides, and it is different, I mean, it's never been easy to be successful, but I find that back then it wasn't easy to find success, but the formula was at least simple, In other words, it was like you could find a path. You'd be like, okay, let's start a band. Let's become really good and popular in our hometown, which is what we did. We started in Boston, and we just worked our asses off until we were basically the biggest band in Boston, And then you get it, and once you do that, because there was a real culture of A&R back then, of guys from record labels out seeking talent, you would get a deal, So basically it was just like, get popular, get a record deal, get on MTV and the radio, and you're going to be successful, And so those things weren't easy to do, but there was a clear path. But now, I don't know what the fucking path is, and I don't think anybody really does. They'll throw things at you like, oh, we've got to get on this playlist on Spotify, and we'll do this, and then you find yourself talking about things that you don't really care about, whereas before, it was a very, the culture was really centered around the music, and, you spent a lot of time talking about the music and things that I thought were cool because, even simple things like, oh, we got our posters in, they're going to hang this poster in Tower Records or whatever, stuff that, you kind of dreamed of as a kid. But now that everything's just sort of this intangible digital thing floating around, it's lost a little bit of the fun for me. That's why I really look forward to going out and playing live, because that's when I get reminded more so that, yeah, I'm still in a fucking band, and we are actually a band, and we're not a hashtag or a playlist or whatever it is that you're, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. So the aesthetic of being in a band has changed other than playing live. You know what I mean? All the other stuff, it really feels different. And yeah, the money is totally different now. There is no money anymore, really. There is, but it's different. It used to be very much, yeah, you got a record deal and at least from my experience back then was yeah, I went from basically sleeping on people's couches to getting checks that were what? I haven't seen that many zeros ever,
Right.
Well, you got a publishing deal and you got this and you just don't really see that anymore. You can make money at least, if you're Taylor Swift or somebody, of course you do, but for the rock band out there that's, in the middling level, it's yeah, it's a different animal, and you've got to really find multiple ways to, make money, and that's why I think being a great live band is still such an important thing, because it's the only tangible thing left, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right. Well, man, before we let you go, man, we're going to remind everybody, New Wave Tour is kicking off October 20th. New Wave, the album, October 27th, man. You can pre-order it now pretty much everywhere, correct?
Yep, it is available everywhere. So go out and get it, and hope everybody loves it. I mean, we're really excited about it. But, it's definitely undeniably a Powerman record, but it's like with every record, we alter it a little bit. We go a little bit this direction, that direction. This one's definitely a little bit rougher than the last couple ones in terms of, one of the goals with the record was to just roughen it up, because, when you record a record, it's easy to make it sound safe and polished because you're in a, more comfortable environment. But when you go and play the shows live and the songs live, they take on a whole other thing, because, so I wanted to have this record sound a little bit, more like that, a little bit rougher, a little bit, leaving a few of the mistakes and not worry if it's, perfect. And so hopefully people will dig it.
Hell yeah, man, absolutely. There's going to be any VIPs, any meet and greets on this tour, and chance for the fans to get up close and personal?
I mean, we don't have anything planned in terms of official ones, but, the reality is it's like, it's become such a, different time where it's like you just hang out, and you tend to meet people anyway. You go out to the merch booth after the show, or there isn't quite as big a wall as there used to be between band and fan. So, there's no official meet and greet, but I'm sure I'll be meeting and greeting a lot of people. So
right on. No, absolutely. I definitely get it, man. As growing up in as a kid in those times, back in the day, the early 2000s, early, mid-90s, early 2000s, I'd never got a chance to meet bands. The first time I saw you guys touring with Kid Rock, never would have had that opportunity like I will, November 7th when we seen you, like when I saw you in Dallas, It's a total different ball game. So I know we can't wait to see you here in Kansas City on November 7th, man. We're looking forward to hear the whole new album, man. So I greatly appreciate your time, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
All right, Spider, thanks a lot.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
All right, sir. Bye-bye.